Hi everybody. So before I get started with today's video, I wanted to talk for just a minute about writing self-esteem, because as I have been going through the process of tearing apart my novel, looking for problems and fixes, and kind of going through this whole editing process, I have gone from different stages of being happy with my work to hating my work to wanting to just, set my laptop on fire. And I think it's very important when you're going through this kind of process to cut yourself some slack, because I need to cut myself some slack. I'm being too harsh on myself. I'm expecting way too much from the get-go. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there at the beginning of this video. So there are ways that you can make the entire writing process easier on yourself. There are ways you can make it harder on yourself. These videos are about how I made it harder on myself by not doing all of the planning and preparation I should have done. But really, my problem started before that. It started with lack of research. And I'm going to talk about that today, because researching different things that you're going to need in your novel is extremely important. And I didn't even know where to begin. So I missed a lot of things that were very important to the research process. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the two different types of research that I classify when I'm talking about researching for a novel. One of them is for writing research and the other one is for the planning stage. And this one is going to be about the planning stage. And basically it's all of the things that you need to research in order to have a good foundation before you actually start writing the book. I've seen a lot of people, like myself even, who are newer to writing novels or just really don't know where to begin, who go into platforms like Reddit or maybe even Twitter, and they're asking a whole lot of questions that really would be better served doing a little research for them and finding out the answers for yourself, as opposed to, getting your answers for some things that could be very vital to your novel from random strangers on the internet. I'm not saying asking people is not a good thing. It is. People can kind of help jar some of your thoughts around and kind of set you in a better direction. But really, that should not be a substitution for doing research. Audience expectations. This part of the research process boils down to two things: age range that your audience's target is, and genre that you're targeting. Because you really need to have those two things planned out before you start writing your novel. Otherwise, you're going to struggle trying to find the appropriate market for your novel. And you don't want to put yourself in that position where you're trying to figure it out after you've already completed the novel. You really want to think about that beforehand, and the best way to do that is to research it. A novel about a 12-year-old boy coming of age and learning about his sexuality is going to be a grossly different novel than one about a grizzled warrior who is out hunting dragons because a dragon slaughtered his entire family and he's out for revenge trying to find that one dragon. And you need to know who your target audience is so that when you're writing a novel for that group, you're meeting certain expectations that they're going to have, which is what they kind of think about when they pick up that book. They pick up the book about the 12-year-old and they kind of have an idea in their mind about what kinds of things they can expect the novel to be about. And then if it goes completely off of that, well, then you're going to have confused and possibly angry readers who are saying, wait a second, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I was thinking I was getting into. There are like a million genres and subgenres that your novel might fit into, and researching the different ones will help you better determine where your novel fits. Because otherwise you end up like me, where you just know you're writing a fantasy novel and you classify that all as one category instead of looking into it and realizing you have everything from dark fantasy to like urban fantasy. And these are different, and the audiences are going to have different expectations when you classify your book as such as to what they're getting into. World building. As you sit down and start planning out the world that your story is going to take place in, you're going to undoubtedly run into aspects that you need to put in more research. Are you planning a society? Well, then you need to do some research and learn the differences of different kinds of cultures, different kinds of civilizations, different types of governments. It's important for you to do that kind of legwork. Are you planning a city? Because there are millions of different pieces that go into how a city functions. You have to plan out the cityscape. You have to determine the technology level. And a lot of these different things you're going to have to research. You may be able to decide what the demographic of the city is going to be like, but what about where the city is located? You know, maybe you don't know how a city would fortify itself best in a medieval setting. Kingdoms have cultures, and researching our world and using that as a foundation for clothing, hairstyles, fighting styles, weaponry, it can make you build a more believable world when you are planning the process. So researching that sort of thing is really going to benefit you in the long run. And in my world, since my world takes place in a kind of a modified version of our world, I had to do a lot of research about different locations that my story is going to take place in, and what cities are there, what kinds of architecture is more prominent there, what kind of streets they have, what kind of attractions they have, what is the topography of the different locations, what is the climate of the different locations. Knowing those kinds of things can make a big difference, because if my story takes place in a sunny, climate, if I'm writing a story that takes place mostly in California and I have it horribly raining all day, well, that's not very realistic depending on where in California my story takes place in. So I had to do research on that sort of thing so that when I'm writing my story, it kind of makes sense and is more believable for my reader. Characters. Let's be honest, characters are supposed to be multifaceted, detailed, beings. They're supposed to be like us. We have many dimensions to us. And you're going to, at some point, run into an aspect of building a character that you don't know the answer to. You can guess, but it would be much better for you to do the research, because that way you're not going to build something that's based off of stereotypes or that's grossly offensive, and you're going to build something that sounds and feels more real, more tangible to your readers. There's a lot of free sites and things out there that can really help you with that, from everything from, trying to describe skin tones, because, you have a ton of skin tones in the world, and there's a ton of ways to describe skin tones, everything from, oh my God, did you just say that, to, wow, that is a beautiful human being. And you really want to try to find a way to describe people that really kind of causes a visualization and doesn't make you want to burn your book. For me, one of my biggest things was hair, because, well, I have this hair, but I didn't know how to describe different kinds of haircuts, different kinds of hairstyles, even colors in ways that make them sound unique, or texture. It's something that you might not think about, but it can really cause a visual image when you're thinking about people's hair texture, color, style, and that's what you want. You want your reader to be able to kind of picture in their mind who this character is, so that when they're reading them, they feel like a real person. Researching dialects, idiosyncrasies, colloquialisms, because again, drawing from our world will help you create something more authentic. I have seen a ton of people asking, how do I create a language? Or how do I create a magical language? And my answer is almost always the same. Look at our languages. Maybe not English, because we're kind of wacky, but look at the romantic languages. Break them down, or pick a language that fits your setting or your concept for your book, for what kind of culture it's going to have. And look at how their language is broken down and use that as a basis. Structure. I've talked about this a little bit before, and I'm only going to touch on it a bit here, but it is extremely important to research the different types of structures your book can have. You need to know the difference between them because for no other reason, it will help you build a framework which will make the writing experience so much easier. And you can use this structure and all of the different elements, assigning plot points to them so that you have a more balanced storyline. Let's say you're using a basic story structure, which starts out, you have a protagonist living their day-to-day life, everything is normal, then you have the inciting incident, something happens which changes things. It kind of throws them into the story, throws them into play. Then you have the rising action where they're going through their struggles and they're learning and they're growing and they're trying to achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. Then you have their, oh, everything's gone to shit moment. And then you have the resolution where things kind of settle down and all of your subplots and everything kind of fizzles out and everything kind of, ends. Of course, if you're writing multiple books, like it's going to be part of a series, maybe you're not going to finish off everything, but that's a little bit more detail than what this is supposed to represent. The point is that you use this standard structure or whichever structure you choose from doing your research, and you say, okay, I want this event to be here, and then this event to be here, and then this event to be here, and that way when you're writing your novel, you don't have a bunch of dead points, because that's something you can run into. I've heard it all the time of people who get to the middle of the book and they're just like writing crap just to fill in stuff, and they're like, oh, I've got this great beginning and this great end, and I have this middle syndrome problem that's just blah, and you don't want that. And so if you go through the process of planning out your structure and researching the different kinds of structures to find the one that is best for you, it'll make it easier for you. Cost and marketing. Now, I know this list is all about before you start the writing process, and technically you can start this after you've already completed your story before you get it published if you really want to, but I suggest starting it as soon as possible. Why? Because you're going to need to know how much you're going to have to save cost-wise for writing your novel. You're going to need to do the research and figure out, are you going to go traditional publish? Are you going to go self-publish? Because those are going to have different cost avenues and different aspects to them that you're going to need to know, and it's better for you to know that up front. And regardless of if you go traditional publish or if you go self-publish, you're going to want to market your book. Regardless of which way you're doing it, you want as many people to see your book as possible and to read your book as possible. That's pretty much the point. Well, in my opinion, that's pretty much the point of writing a book. You write a book in the hopes that people will read your book and they'll love your book. And having a good marketing strategy, that is just going to help ensure that you have the most people engaging in your product. And researching the process can make you have a much more successful opportunity with this, because you can learn from other people what worked and what didn't work. And that can help you kind of form your strategy and figure out where you're going to spend your money in the process. Should you pay for advertisements? If so, on which platforms, and how much money should you invest in it? Should you start a blog? Should you start a vlog? These are kinds of things that you're going to want to research when you're coming up with your marketing strategy. Then you have costs. You have to start figuring out what kind of editor are you going to hire? How much is that going to cost? At least an estimate for yourself. How much are you going to be spending on getting the cover art for your book? Again, just an estimate, but it's good to know these things. If you're going traditional published, what exactly is your traditional publisher going to cover? talking to other authors who have contracts with them might be a very useful idea. You can kind of get a feel for what you'd be getting into if you work with that particular publishing house. So this is more research that is very important, and the earlier you start it, the better it's going to be for you, because you won't be scrambling or thinking about it after the fact and going, oh my God, why didn't I think about this? My point about this is that doing research before you start planning and writing your novel is vital, absolutely vital, because you do not want to write your book and then end up having to make a million revisions like me. It will, like I said at the beginning, kill your self-esteem as a writer, and it will make the process take so much longer. Research adds to the accuracy and depth of your story, and it is extremely important. I know that I'm, just sitting here just talking about it like this is all fun and games and everything, but I want to have a successful book. I want my book to be received well. I want people to want more of my work. And I messed up. I didn't do enough research, and now I'm having to do it during the editing phase. And like I've said about everything else I've messed up on so far, I'm shooting myself in the foot, and now I just kind of want to take my laptop and go whack, whack, whack. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video all the way through. And I will be coming out with part 2 soon. Check out some more of my videos. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and all right, bye.